Have you ever wondered how the US presidential elections work? They aren't like the elections we notice in other countries. Stay tuned to find out everything you need to know regarding how the US presidential system works. The election of the President and Vice President of the United States is an indirect election in which the people of the United States who are eligible to vote in one of the 50 US states or in Washington, D.C. cast ballots not directly to those offices, but instead to the representatives of the Electoral College. These electors then cast direct votes, known as electoral votes, to the president. The candidate who receives an absolute majority of the vote, which is at least 270 out of 538, because the 23rd Amendment granted voting rights to the residents of D.C., is elected to that office. If no one receives an absolute majority of the votes in favor of the president, the House of Representatives shall select the most suitable candidate for the presidency. If no one receives an absolute majority of the votes in favor of the vice president, the Senate shall elect the vice president. The election process of the U.S. president can be consolidated into 5 steps. Step 1. Primaries and caucuses. Step 2. National conventions. Step 3. Election campaigning. Step 4. General election. And Step 5. Electoral college. Step 1. Primaries and caucuses. Party-level elections in states. The first step for the White House political parties is to appoint a candidate for the office of president. In order to select the candidate, the parties first hold primaries and caucuses in various states to select delegates that will then go on to endorse the presidential nominee. There may be several candidates who want to be presidents of the United States of America. While each of these people may have their own ideas about how the U.S. government should function, people with similar views typically stand behind the same political party. But first, they need to earn the favor of their party members. Candidates from every political party campaign around the country to win favor of their party members. Primaries and caucuses are mechanisms used by political parties to nominate candidates for general elections. The primary is a state-level contest in which the party members vote for the best candidate to represent them in the general election. Party candidates chosen in the primaries would then run against each other in the general election. 34 U.S. states are holding primary elections. There are many primary forms in the U.S. system, such as closed primary, semi-closed primary, open primary, and semi-open primary. On the other hand, a caucus is a local meeting where registered political party representatives in a town or county assemble to vote for their favorite party candidate and conduct other party business. A caucus is a replacement for a primary election for the selection of delegates to the National Party Convention. 16 states organize caucuses to determine candidates for political parties. Step 2. National conventions of each party. Once the primaries and caucuses have been concluded in each state, a national convention shall be held in which the party's selection as president is officially announced to the public. At the convention, the elected delegates cast their vote for the candidate of the party, and the candidate with the most delegates is nominated for the party. The conclusion of the convention signals the start of the general election process. Each party holds a national convention to finalize the selection of a presidential candidate. At each convention, the presidential nominee selects a running mate, effectively a vice presidential nominee. Step 3. General election campaigning. General election campaigning starts with the election of a single candidate from each political party through primaries, caucuses, and national conventions. These candidates are traveling around the country, presenting their beliefs and strategies to the general public, and seeking to attract the confidence of potential voters. Rallies, interviews, and publicity are a large part of the general election campaign. Step 4. General election. Popular vote. Usually, this will take place in November. Many modern voters would be shocked to learn that when they walk into a ballot box to elect their presidential nominee, they actually cast a vote for fellow Americans called electors. People in every country vote for one president and one vice president. When people vote, they actually vote for a group of people known as electors. The citizens of each province and the District of Columbia shall vote for the electors to be eligible constitutional representatives in the presidential election. These electors are the Electoral College. The elector is a member of the College of Elections. These electors, appointed by the states, are committed to supporting the presidential nominee supported by the electorate. Even if the majority of the people in the USA vote for a candidate, this does not mean that he or she will win the presidential election. There are times where a candidate who received a popular vote has lost the presidency. To win the election, a candidate needs to secure more than 270 electoral votes. Step 5. Electoral College. Electors vote for the U.S. president. Typically, this occurs in December. The U.S. president is chosen by an organization called the Electoral College. although the Constitution only specifies that a candidate who receives a majority vote in the Electoral College becomes president. It doesn't say anything about the popular vote. The goal of the framers was to channel public opinion into a body made up of smarter, more seasoned citizens. The framers did not want the president to be directly elected by the people. Each state shall have a certain number of electors, depending on the total number of representations of each state in the Congress. Each of the 50 U.S. states and the capital of Washington, D.C., a district which does not belong to either state, has a fixed number of electors representing their sides. California is the most populous nation with more than 38 million people and has 55 electoral votes, more than any other. On the other hand, a state such as Montana, which is geographically wide but has a comparatively small population of just over 1 million residents, has just 3 electors. Apart from Maine and Nebraska, if the nominee receives the most votes within their territory, he or she will receive the full quota of Electoral College votes. Each elector casts 1 vote after the general election, with a total of 538 votes cast. The candidate who receives more than half of the 270 votes at least wins the election. A lot of you continue to ask how Trump became the President of the United States while losing the popular vote in 2016. While rare, it is possible to win the Electoral College but to lose the popular vote. This means that a candidate can win a combination of states and hit the 270 mark of the electorate without receiving a plurality of votes around the country. This occurred 5 times in the U.S. election, most recently in 2016 and 2000. Monopoly behind the 2000 elections? In 2000, for the first time in 112 years, the eventual election winner, Republican George W. Bush, with 47.87% of the electorate, struggled to secure a popular vote that lagged behind the Democratic candidate, Al Gore, who won over 48.38% of the electorate. That's about 550,000 votes cast by Bush nationwide. The result of that election was Florida, which at the time had 25 Electoral College votes and gave Bush a narrow Electoral College victory, with 271 voters over Gore's 266. However, the race was so tight in the Sunshine State that a mandatory recount was instituted, and with legal challenges initiated in a number of Florida counties, the case was ultimately resolved by the Supreme Court, which handed the state and thus the presidency to Bush by ruling 5-4 in favor of the Republicans on the 12th of December of that year. So why does the U.S. have an electoral college? The short answer is that the framers of the Constitution did not trust direct democracy and offered an extra layer to ensure, as James Madison put it, that factions of people of mutual interest do not affect the nation as a whole. The Electoral College, however, has become a mere formality. The Constitution does not mandate electors to vote on the basis of the popular vote of the people they represent, but it's unusual for an elector not to obey the preference of the people and their party. Since the actual vote of the Electoral College takes place in each state between mid-November and mid-December, the predicted winner will in most cases be declared on election night. But wait, what happens if no candidate gets 270 electoral votes? In the unlikely case that no candidate obtains the requisite 270 electoral votes, the decision will go to the House of Representatives, which would vote to elect the next president from among the top 3 candidates. A similar procedure will take place in the Senate to elect the vice president from among the top 2 candidates. The last time this occurred was during the election of 1824, when John Quincy Adams obtained the most votes in the House of Representatives after no one had secured a majority in the Electoral College. This was all about how the U.S. president is elected, and if you liked the video, feel free to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to stay up to date with the latest videos.